All right, I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. All right, all right. Thank you once again for the co-creation of this interaction. It is always a gift to us to experience through each of you that many more facets of the multidimensional crystal of creation. We would like to begin this transmission that is titled The Power of Paradox in the following way. Trust, empowerment, connection, confidence, control. These are experiences that many people on your planet have many challenges with. But there is a way to understand these states of being so that even though when you experience ideas like, I lack trust, I lack confidence, I'm out of control, I don't feel a connection, those kinds of ideas, there are ways to understand how reality works so that you can see the paradox in those statements, because every time you may feel or utter negative, fear-based belief system statements in that way, there is always a way to understand how to turn them around, how to reverse them into a positive state by simply understanding the paradox that exists within statements of that kind. For example, as we have sometimes discussed, when someone feels that they lack trust, this is actually impossible. Because if you are saying, I lack trust, you're trusting that. If you say, I lack confidence, you're confident about that. I am out of control, but you're controlling that experience. I am not connected, but you have to be connected to have an experience of disconnection. Because if you weren't connected, you would have no experience at all. These ideas contain their own paradoxical opposites. If you understand how reality actually works, if you understand your place within existence, you will understand that you don't have to learn to do these things. You don't have to learn to trust. It's built in. It's not an issue of lacking trust. It's an issue of trusting in lack. You're always trusting something to be true, or again, you wouldn't have an experience of any kind. So again, when you say, I lack confidence, you are stating a very confident idea. You are very confident about your lack of confidence. So the idea is when you feel those things, find yourself believing in those ideas, remind yourself that you don't have to learn to trust, you don't have to learn to be confident, you don't have to learn to be in control, you don't have to learn how to be connected to reality, to the cosmos, to all that is. You already do this. It's automatic, it's built into you as a reflection of creation. You can't help it. You just do it automatically. Again, you wouldn't have an experience if you didn't. So the next time you hear yourself and catch yourself bemoaning the fact that you have no trust, that you have no confidence, that you have no control, that you don't feel a connection, so on and so forth, stop yourself. Remind yourself that the opposite must actually be the truth, and you simply have, for some reason, something you've bought into as a belief that allows you to use your trust, use your confidence, use your connection, use your control in ways that you don't necessarily prefer to. And that means you've made a choice to have that experience on some level. Usually these beliefs might be ensconced in your unconscious mind, And so the whole idea, when you catch yourself saying those things, thinking those things, feeling those things, is to realize that you might be describing a way in which you're using your trust, using your connection, using your confidence, but that the statement itself is not a fact. It's simply the product of something you've been taught to believe is true about yourself in that particular circumstance or situation. And if you start to realize that it can't really be possible that you can lack trust or lack confidence, then you can remind yourself when you hear those statements coming from you or passing through your mind, you can remind yourself in that moment, wait a minute, I heard that and I'm catching it, and it's not a fact. It's just an opinion, it's a perspective, it's a belief. And those things can be changed. When you are very often growing up on your planet, you are taught to believe certain things. You pick them up, sometimes even telepathically, from your parents, from your friends, from your society, from your schooling. But when you finally arrive at the place where you are maturing into adulthood, you suddenly realize that you're carrying around all of this baggage from other people that you've bought into and picked up along the way. And it starts to weigh you down. You feel like you're dragging it along. Your own bags weigh nothing. If you feel held back, if you feel dragged down by certain ideas and beliefs within you, that should be your first clue that you're carrying around someone else's baggage that doesn't belong to you. You're carrying around someone else's belief system that isn't necessarily something you need to share. When you were growing up, you swallowed it all because you needed someone to take care of you. And so you wanted to appease your family, your friends, your society, your schooling by saying, all right, I'll go along with this for now. But by the time you grow up, it's become so unconscious, it's become so automatic that you don't even realize that you swallowed all these belief systems that had nothing to do with who you truly are as a being. And so the process starts happening where you start realizing that these things are not in alignment with who you feel you need to be, who you prefer to be. The vibrations don't match. It doesn't feel comfortable. It's not where you truly live. And therefore, you have to start the process of divesting yourself of these beliefs that have nothing to do with you, that you've been carrying around for so many years. So the idea is simply when you get into that state where you start feeling that the thing you just said about yourself in a circumstance feels like it's rubbing you the wrong way, as you say, it's time to stop and take a moment and pay attention, because right then and right there is the most important moment for you to start getting in touch with what those beliefs are that are in your unconscious mind and bring them into the light of your consciousness so that you can see that they don't belong to you, that they make no sense for who you prefer to be, and then you can start to realize what is and isn't your truth. Does that make sense? All right. A very simple technique for any one of you in any circumstance where you start feeling that incompatible vibration is, first and foremost, of course, be honest within your own self-investigation and allow yourself to realize the difference between whether it is truly something that is not representative of who you are, truly something that is not representative of your excitement, or whether it is simply your belief system making it look that way. As soon as you clear out with yourself whether something really is or isn't reflective of who you prefer to be, then you can move forward. But the idea is to ask yourself a question in one of two ways. Sometimes the first way will work for some of you. Sometimes the second way will work for different people. The first way is when you feel that, when you find yourself in that moment, what would I have to believe is true about myself in this situation to feel, think, behave, or experience what I am feeling, thinking, behaving, or experiencing? Because all experiences, all behaviors, all thoughts, and all emotions come from what you believe to be true first. That's the blueprint. The emotions are the builders of the reality. The thoughts are the building materials. The behaviors are the way in which the builders are building your house. And the experience is you living in the house that was built from the blueprint. And if it doesn't feel comfortable in that house, trace it back to the blueprint, make the changes there in the belief system, and the emotions, the builders, the thoughts, the building materials, the behaviors, the style of building, and the house will all start to be in alignment and feel comfortable for you to live in, which is your experience of life. So the idea is, ask that question. The answer in some way, shape, or form will come either through a dream or synchronicity or what have you. Or if you find that asking the question that way, what would I have to believe is true about myself in order to have this experience in this way, to feel what I'm feeling? If the answer doesn't come that way, you can take advantage of the fact that people on your planet are so used to the idea of dealing with fear that you can use it to your advantage in the following way, by asking the question in this form. If I did in fact allow myself to be who I really prefer to be, what am I afraid might happen? That will usually reveal the fear-based belief, if you are willing to hear it. Then you have something to work with. As soon as you bring the actual belief, the statement itself, the way it's arranged, the equation, so to speak, of energy that is that belief, into the light of your conscious mind, and you're aware now of what the belief actually is, if you really take a strong look at it, a clear look at what it's saying, you will realize one very important thing. The belief doesn't make sense for you. It's not logical anymore. Because you can look around and see when you might believe something negative to be true about yourself. I don't deserve, I'm not worthy, I can't do this. When you look around and see other people who might be doing the kinds of things that you would love to be doing, following their passion like you might desire to follow yours, and you realize that they can do it, then you can do it. And so the idea of having this belief system within you that doesn't make sense as to why you would buy into this thing when it's clear that other people can do it, and therefore so can you in your own terms, then it starts to not make sense. And here's the important point. As soon as a belief doesn't make sense, it's gone. That's the end of the process of letting it go, not the beginning. Because many people talk to us and say, all right, now I've discovered the belief, and yeah, it makes no sense. So now what do I do to get rid of it? You already have let it go because it makes no sense. Why? Because you actually don't hold on to things that don't make sense. You don't. You never do. Now, if you intellectually understand that it doesn't make sense and yet you find yourself holding on to it, that should be your first clue that you have a belief system that is making it look like it makes sense. Because that's the only reason you would keep doing it. You would keep holding on to it, is you have a belief that says it serves you to hold on to this. Don't let it go. Something worse will happen if you let it go. That's just the way negative beliefs perpetuate themselves. Because if belief systems, both positive and negative, didn't perpetuate themselves, you couldn't have a physical experience because physical reality isn't real. You have to believe that it's real. And belief systems, both positive and negative, have to reinforce themselves and make it seem as if this physical experience is actually a real thing unto itself, separate from you. But it's not. So a belief system will use emotion, thoughts, and behaviors and experiences to reinforce the reality of the belief, to make it seem like a fact when it's nothing but a belief. So allow yourselves the opportunity to realize that beliefs are just designed to perpetuate themselves so you can have a physical experience, and realize that it's just a belief that can be changed. And as soon as you allow yourself to know the difference between what really has to do with you and who you prefer to be and what does not, as soon as you develop that skill of discernment by honest self-investigation and start following the instruction manual and the formula that we've shared with many of you of acting on your passion to the best you can with no insistence and no assumption of the outcome, and remain in a positive state no matter what happens, because it doesn't matter what happens, it only matters what you do with what happens. That makes the difference in your life, then everything falls into place automatically. It works, it's self-perpetuating, self-expanding, self-guiding, and life will flow automatically through you, and you will experience the joy of being you. because each and every one of you is a unique reflection of all that is, of creation, of existence itself, and no one is going to do anything exactly as you would do it. Sometimes it may look similar, but it's never the same, not exactly. So honor and appreciate your uniqueness. Discover the beliefs within you that prevent you from being yourself, and you will have a life that is the path of least resistance and will be replete with synchronicity in a manner that will serve you on and on and on, in all the ways that benefit you, in all the ways that allow you more opportunity to be who you truly are. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. We thank you for allowing us to share this idea with you this night of your time. Allow yourselves to find that power in paradox when you hear yourself talking yourself into being someone you're not. So, in return for the gift you have given us, I ask you now, in what way may we be of service to you? You may begin with your questions and dialogue if you wish.